What if the fate of civilization hinged on a weather report? In the summer of 1940, as warm winds swept across the English Channel, one of the most powerful militaries in history stood ready to invade the British Isles. The beaches were chosen. The barges were assembled. The orders were written. But as the tides turned and clouds rolled in, Adolf Hitler blinked and the invasion never came. But why? With France defeated and Britain isolated, many believed the fall of London was inevitable. Yet what unfolded instead was not an amphibious landing, but an unprecedented battle in the skies, a duel between radar blips and screaming engines, between tactical genius and political rivalry, between exhausted pilots and the rising specter of Nazi domination. Could Operation Sea Lion, planned German invasion, have actually succeeded? And did the Royal Air Force alone save Britain? Or was Germany's failure a symptom of deeper flaws? This is not just a story of fighter aces and dogfights. It's a story of improvisation, broken doctrine, national myth, and quiet, grinding logistics. It's the story of how a nation on the brink of collapse reshaped the course of World War II without ever setting foot on enemy soil. By June 1940, Europe is crumbling. In just 6 weeks, German forces have shattered the French army and driven British forces into the sea. The miracle at Dunkirk evacuates over 330,000 men, but much of their equipment is left behind abandoned on beaches as panzers close in. To the east, Norway surrenders. To the south, Mussolini's Italy enters the war. And across the English Channel, the Luftwaffe stares toward the cliffs of Dover, unchallenged. The British Isles now stand alone. German troops occupy the Channel Islands' British soil marking, the first time since the Norman conquest that a foreign force controls part of the United Kingdom. To the British public, the specter of invasion is no longer a hypothetical, it is imminent. British defenses, meanwhile, are a patchwork of desperation. 15 understrength infantry divisions guard the homeland. Many soldiers lack training, weapons, or even uniforms. Hastily constructed pillboxes dot the coast. Mortar pits are dug along narrow roads. Some farms are laced with hidden barrels of napalm fougasse traps to incinerate enemy tanks. Civilian volunteers flood the ranks of the newly formed local defense volunteers, soon renamed the Home Guard. Within a week, over 250,000 men enlist, most of them too old or too young for regular service. There are not enough rifles to go around. Many carry brooms, cricket bats, or improvised pikes made from kitchen knives. One government pamphlet even recommends carrying pepper-toe blind German paratroopers. The fear is real, and it is everywhere. But the truth is more complicated. Despite their stunning victories on land, the Germans have no plan yet for how to actually conquer Britain. In Berlin, Hitler is indecisive. Privately, he expresses admiration for the British Empire. He believes the war in the West is essentially over and imagines Britain might sue for peace if shown a little force. On July 16, however, his patience wears thin. With no sign of negotiation from London, Hitler issues Directive No. 16, prepare for an invasion of Britain. Operation Sea Lion is born, but it is born confused. The German Wehrmacht, Kriegsmarine, and Luftwaffe all propose conflicting strategies. The army wants a massive frontal assault with tanks and up to 40 divisions. The Navy balks they lack the ships, the landing craft, and the control of the sea. Admiral Raeder warns the plan is suicidal. The army might as well march through a sausage machine, snaps General Franz Halder, dismissing the Navy's limited proposal in return. Eventually, a compromise emerges. 3 main landing zones in southeast England, with paratroopers landing behind the lines to disrupt British defenses. An additional landing would come later in Dorset. If all goes well, German troops would push northwest, encircle London, and force a surrender. But the problems are staggering. Germany has no experience in amphibious warfare, no trained marine infantry, no specialized landing craft. The Kriegsmarine requisitions over 2,000 river barges from across Europe. Some are welded together. Others are so fragile they might capsize in open water. Some have no engines. Many will be unusable after a single landing. The tide schedules are unforgiving. Only 7 days in September offer suitable conditions for an assault. And the Royal Navy, battered but still the largest fleet in the world, lurks in nearby ports waiting to pounce. For any of this to succeed, Germany must control the skies. And so, the true battle begins not at sea, but in the air. Germany's Luftwaffe launches a massive aerial campaign to destroy the Royal Air Force and pave the way for Sea Lion. In July, over 2,000 German aircraft are ready for operations across occupied France, Belgium, and Norway. They are confident. Many of their pilots are combat veterans from Poland, France, and the Spanish Civil War. Opposing them, the RAF Fighter Command, barely 600 serviceable fighters Hurricanes, and the sleek, now legendary Spitfire Sabre ready to defend the British skies. The outcome is far from certain. On paper, the Luftwaffe holds all the cards: more planes, more pilots, and control of the continent. But reality tells a different story. British aircraft have one key advantage: geography. RAF pilots fight over friendly territory. If they're shot down, they can bail out, return to base, and fight again. German pilots are captured or drowned. Then comes technology. British radar, codenamed Chainhome, scans the skies across the southern coast. It's primitive by modern standards but revolutionary in 1940. The radar system, integrated with telephone lines, filter rooms, and ground observers, forms the world's first fully coordinated air defense network. It allows RAF commanders to direct fighters only where they are needed, conserving strength and maximizing surprise. Tactically, however, the RAF is outdated. Pilots still fly in tight Vic formations, 3 planes, in a triangle which limits maneuverability. In contrast, German pilots operate in flexible finger-4 pairs, giving them greater visibility and tactical freedom. Many Luftwaffe aces rack up staggering kill counts early in the campaign. Still, the RAF adapts. Despite severe losses, many pilots have less than 10 hours of combat training. RAF squadrons begin to shift tactics. They scatter, reform, and hit back hard. As July gives way to August, the Battle of Britain enters its next and most brutal phase. The German plan unfolds in 3 escalating waves. Phase 1, known as the Kanalkampf, the Channel Battle, focuses on British shipping. Luftwaffe bombers and dive bombers hammer Royal Navy convoys in the English Channel, drawing RAF fighters into vulnerable dogfights over water. Many pilots are lost at sea. The goal is to wear down Britain's air defenses slowly and bleed them before the main assault. Then, in early August, the Luftwaffe escalates. Phase 2 targets RAF airfields, radar stations, and aircraft factories. German High Command believes that if they can destroy Fighter Command's infrastructure, the British air shield will collapse. From August 13 to August 18 Adlertag, or Eagle Day, the Luftwaffe launches hundreds of sorties. The skies over southern England erupt in swirling duels of tracer fire and vapor trails. On August 15 alone, more than 1,800 German aircraft fly combat missions. But there is a critical flaw. Despite causing heavy damage, the Germans fail to destroy British radar installations. They hit them inconsistently and fail to realize how essential the radar chain is to RAF coordination. Damaged stations are quickly repaired. More importantly, they never fully target the control centers and communication lines that tie the whole system together. Even worse, German intelligence is flawed. They believe the RAF is down to its last reserves, when in fact, Britain is still receiving reinforcements pilots from Poland, Czechoslovakia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, and the United States. Some have seen combat. Others arrive with just a few hours of flight experience. Some squadrons are now flying multiple missions a day. Still, the pressure on the RAF is intense. By late August, pilots are rotating between sorties and collapse. One pilot recalled flying 7 combat missions in a single day. Others admitted they could no longer remember if they'd even landed between missions. Tempers fray. Discipline weakens. Ground crews sleep under wings, fixing bullet holes and changing engines as the sun rises. And yet they hold. Then, a German miscalculation changes the course of history. On the night of August 24, a small group of German bombers, possibly by accident, drops bombs on central London. In retaliation, the RAF launches a daring daylight raid on Berlin. The damage is minimal, but the psychological effect is devastating. Hitler is furious. He orders the Luftwaffe to shift tactics. Instead of pounding airfields and radar stations, they are now to target city, especially London. Hermann Göring, eager to deliver a knockout blow, believes that terror bombing will break British morale and lure the RAF into a final, decisive battle. But instead of breaking Britain, it saves the RAF. The shift in targets gives Fighter Command precious time to recover. Airfields are rebuilt. Runways are cleared. Reserve squadrons are rotated in. Aircraft production increases. On September 15, the Luftwaffe makes one final push. Two massive raids over 250 bombers, protected by over 300 fighters, plunge into British airspace. They are met by an equal number of RAF fighters in one of the largest aerial battles of the war. Londoners watch from rooftops as the sky above the Thames becomes a roiling storm of explosions, smoke, and diving aircraft. By the end of the day, Germany has lost 80 planes, Britain 35. On September 17, Hitler officially postpones Operation Sea Lion. The invasion of Britain is dead. Consequences? Legacy. Long-term impact. What the world witnessed in the skies above Britain was not just a military contest, but a psychological and strategic inflection point. Germany had appeared unstoppable. France had fallen in 6 weeks. Poland had been crushed in under a month. Norway and the Low Countries were gone. Britain stood alone. But it had not fallen. For the first time in World War II, Adolf Hitler had been checked, not by tanks, not by generals, but by pilots, radar technicians, ground crews, civilians, and the stubborn refusal of an island nation to bow. Yet the victory was not total. German bombers continued to strike British cities for months. Over 23,000 civilians were killed. The Blitz would go on into the following year, with nighttime bombing raids sowing terror across London, Coventry, and Liverpool. But militarily, the Luftwaffe had failed in its primary mission, to destroy Fighter Command and open the skies for invasion. Historians have long debated the what-ifs. Could Operation Sea Lion have succeeded if the Luftwaffe had won the air battle? Even if the RAF had been defeated, many analysts argue that the German invasion was still logistically impossible. Germany had no specialized landing craft. Most of the river barges requisitioned for Sea Lion would have sunk in open water or been destroyed by the Royal Navy before reaching shore. The Royal Navy remained by far the largest and most powerful in the world. And unlike France, whose navy stayed neutral, Britain's fleet would have fought tooth and nail in the Channel, likely devastating any German supply lines. One comparison stands out starkly. During the day invasion of 1944, the Allies used over 4,000 custom-built landing craft to land 132,000 troops. Germany, by contrast, hoped to move 100,000 men using 2,000 inland barges without air superiority, without naval cover, and without any prior amphibious experience. As Vice Admiral Kurt Asman later admitted, none of the responsible personalities were ready to take a firm stand against the operation, but all were relieved to find in the lack of air mastery a sound argument for abandoning it. The invasion of Britain, in the end, was never fully real. And yet, it could have been, had the Luftwaffe focused more consistently, had they crushed the radar stations, had Hitler restrained his ego and stuck to the original plan, had the weather shifted, had a single day gone differently. Would the Black Cross have flown over Westminster? Would Churchill's speeches have been broadcast from a Canadian exile government? Would America have entered the war in time? These questions remain unanswered, But one thing is certain. The Battle of Britain was not just won by the few, though they fought heroically. It was won by a nation that, even in its darkest hour, refused to give in. A nation whose courage bought the world time. Time to regroup, time to resist, time to strike back. And as Germany turned east, toward the vast steppes of Russia, it made a fateful choice, leaving the British Isles defiant, bloodied, and unbroken. If you believe in revisiting the crossroads of history, subscribe to Legacy Files. We illuminate the battles not just of armies, but of ideas, risks, and resolve.